Horse racing fans, welcome back to the channel. I hope you are all starting off the weekend in the best possible way, and what better way than to watch a JM racing video about York Day 4, especially with the form we're in at the minute. Just some tips on day 1 for this week, and we had a 6-1 and a 13-2 winner from just 5 bets, I should say, so that put us well in the profit. And this week, unlike Cheltenham seems to drag on. It certainly did this year, probably because I couldn't back a winner. York has seemed to fly past. It helps that we have been in quite good form, to be honest, so hopefully we can finish on a high as well and keep up the good run at form. Before we do get into the video, do subscribe if you are new here, and if you could like the video and maybe leave a nice comment or your best bets for the day, that would be very much appreciated, and I'd be interested to see what you do fancy, because it is quite an interesting days of racing. I'm hoping the first race isn't interesting at all, it's just plain and straightforward. For the favourite, Mighty Ulysses, John and Thady Gosden team up with Frankie Dettori. There has been some life between the two of them. He's back in the saddle today, and he's had a few winners since he's come back. If you think of Inspiral, she's been pretty impressive, especially out in France when winning more than the bare margin. But this 3-year-old out of Ulysses, I think, is a pretty decent horse and probably better than a Group 3 horse in time. He won his last start at Newmarket in listed company, beat Alfela, who reopposes today. Alfela is second in the market. Jim Crowley takes the ride this time instead of Dane O'Neill last time, but I think Mighty Ulysses beat this horse pretty comfortably last time. The winning margin was just a length and a half, but was well on top on the line. Really saw out this trip strongly. I think didn't get a lead that day. It was a bit of a weird race. It was a small field of 8, but they just kind of ran all over the track. Frankie Dettori probably had to make all, which might not have suited the horse, but when a horse came to challenge Mighty Ulysses, he dug deep, found out. I think he's a real strong stayer over the mile. Also has a decent turn of foot as well, and definitely has the best form. If you think back to his run at Ascot, where he finished 5th in the St James's Palace, that was a Group 1. And if you look at the horses in and around him that day, he doesn't have that competition to face yet again. Good drops from a Group 1 to a Group 3, which is a market drop. Even money in the market was a little bit bigger when I tipped him up on Ginger Joe's horse racing weekend preview, so 6-5 has been available, but even money still could be a decent bit of value. I don't think there's too much for him to beat. It might be a weak Group 3, but I think he's definitely a Group 2, if not a Group 1 horse running in this weaker contest. Hopefully that can get us off to a good start. Next up in the Melrose, it's not your traditional Melrose handicap. There's only 13 in the race, and I think Wild Crusade is one that definitely went in my tracker after Ascot. Holly Doyle gave this horse a great ride from the front. I thought the others in behind, it was just a 3-runner, whereas I thought Warren Point was coming to snatch Wild Crusade at the end of the day. Another Godolphin horse, that wasn't to be, and that horse has since won off a mark of 95, boosting the form, even though Wild Crusade readily beat this horse by 2.5 lengths. So really strong performance over the stiff 1.5 miles. Steps up to 1 mile and 6, which is going to bring out about even more improvement. William Buick back in the saddle. He's the top jockey at York so far, fresh off a double yesterday. I managed to back both of them, which I was very happy about, so he's definitely in my good books, is Buick, and I'm hoping he can do the same again. The horse is up £9, which might be a little bit excessive, you could say, but the form is there. The performance was a good one. Son of Dubawi stepping up in trip. There's lots to like, and I think this horse should be taking the beating at 4-1. Next up in the 3 o'clock, the City of York Stakes. Always a pretty good race. You always see a decent performance in this. I quite like the 5 horse drawn in stall 5 as well, which isn't a negative in a small field. You could be drawn 9 and it wouldn't be too much of an issue, and that is Kinross. Rev Beckett joined Frankie Dettori takes the ride. Now the key thing to this horse is the ground for me. This horse has run on good to firm ground only twice in its career. First off was as a 3-year-old, on its first start as a 3-year-old, as I should say, and it finished 6th behind Kamako in the 2000 Guineas. And if you look at the horses there, Kamako, Wichita, Pinatubo, Military March, Juan Alicano, probably not the best horse, but still a decent horse. So if you look at the horses he was mixing it with as a 3-year-old, look, you've got to look a long way back to that form, but even when he finished 8th in the Platinum Jubilee, that was a Group 1 over 6 furlongs. Did some okay work late home over the stiff 6 furlongs. Looks to be a 7 furlongs horse in my book. Funky Dettori takes the ride, and I think there's a lot of factors to like here. Sacred is a horse that I'm not too keen on. I'm not sure why there's so much strength in the market for that one. That's 7-2, which would be a little bit short for me. So Kinross in the 3 o'clock. Onto the big race, the Ebor, and I'm just going to keep it short and sweet. There's 2 horses that I very much like. The first one, Garci, he's been in my tracker for quite a while now. Very good on his penultimate start at York, winning off a mark of 94. He's now rated 103, but it was a very good effort in the Old Newton Cup at Haydock as well. That was a decent run in defeat. A few things went wrong. Maybe the ground wouldn't have suited. I think back on a faster surface today will definitely suit. Up in trip should suit. He hit the line pretty strongly that day, coming from a little bit too far back as well. Kieran Schumacher takes the ride at 7-1. I think that's a decent each way bet. And then one at a huge price, Valley Forge, is so overpriced at 28-1. There's so much to like about this horse, who won the Melrose last year off a mark of 83. He's a lot higher this time around, but I still think there could be improvement to come from this horse. He's rated 100, which is up to a career high mark now, that is admitted, but he was very good at Haydock when winning over 2 miles. Will definitely stay this trip, has some decent form on good or quicker ground, so that wouldn't be an issue as well. And he's snuck in off bottom weight, number 22 in the field, carries only 9 stone 2. That must be a positive. He's going to be travelling there so strongly. I just get the feeling he might travel, poor, but pushes the button and he should be there or thereabouts at the end at 28-1. It's a remarkable bet in my point of view. Last tip is going to come in the 4:45. We're going to skip out the 4:10, probably good reason to as well. It looks a very competitive handicap. And onto the 4:45, Rousing Encore, 11-2, was 8-1, and again he was tipped up in the Ginger Joe weekend preview at 8-1. Now 11-2. There's still a slither of an each way bet if it's each way to nothing at the end of the day. Maybe the drop to 5 furlongs might not be totally ideal, but he has won over 5 furlongs at Beverley. That was pretty impressive. Did it in a good time. Backed it up at Pontefract, winning over 6, beat a horse called Briege, who was a very nice filly of John Quinn's, who was 3rd behind the Zoo recently, so that form works out pretty well. Was 6th at Ascot in the Coventry, and then ran pretty well at Naas in a big sales race for £300,000. Finished 5th at the end of the day, but probably had to do too much too soon. Was leading the pack on the far side and probably got a little bit tired late home. So the drop to 5 furlongs, it might be a little bit too far in the other direction, considering York is a pretty flat track. It's not that much of a stiff 5 furlongs, but I think this horse definitely has the speed and should be running into the frame at 11-2 and taking on a favourite, Rocky Rodney, that I'm not totally convinced by, to be totally honest. So that rounds up this preview for Ebor Day at York. The best of luck with your bets. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time.